Most talking head setups online look like this: overly bright, flat, colorless, the kind of image that people scroll straight past without a second thought. Now this is the exact same apartment living room, the exact same camera, the exact same two main lights. Apart from some decorations, nothing was bought or upgraded between these two shots. What changed was the approach, and the best part, you don't need a dedicated studio to do this. Improving my lighting has been one of the most transformative shifts in the production quality of my videos, but it wasn't the gear itself that made the difference, it was learning the actual techniques and principles behind how to use that gear. Like many of you, I don't have a permanent studio. I film the majority of my talking head videos right here in our shared family living room, and because I have to set up everything fresh each time, that actually handed me something valuable. It forced me to experiment, to try new approaches each time, always pushing to get a better result than the last. Looking back through my older videos, the improvement in production quality is significant, but what makes it interesting is that every single one of those videos was filmed in this exact same spot using the exact same lights and the exact same camera. But what did change was the practical knowledge that I built up along the way. And in this video, I want to save you all of that time. I'm going to break down the exact lighting setup and techniques that I wish I had known earlier so you too can achieve the same cinematic results no matter whether you're filming at home or on a professional shoot. Before a single light gets switched on, the first thing I do is deal with the ambient light that I don't want. If you're filming in a room with sunlight coming through the windows or with overhead lights left on, you're already working against yourself, and here's why. Uncontrolled light bounces from multiple directions and often at different color temperatures. That works directly against any attempt to create intentional color in contrast in your image. And if you're filming for a longer stretch of time, the changing position of the sun means that your shots won't match with each other in the edit. Your color and your exposure will drift across the day without you realizing it, and when you try to cut those two shots together, that inconsistency will be obvious. The fix doesn't require anything expensive. I use large black tablecloths, the kind that you would find at a party supply or department store, and I attach them over my windows with masking tape on the frame. They go up quickly, come down cleanly, and they block the light far more effectively than you would expect. I then slightly close the window blinds over the top for an extra layer of control. From there, all overhead lights go off, and I close the doors to the surrounding rooms to cut off any light spilling in from elsewhere in the apartment. The room is now quite dark, and that's exactly where I want to start. We're building from as close to zero as possible so that every bit of light in the final image is something that we put there deliberately. With the room controlled, it's time to introduce our main light source, the key light. My key light is the Godox BL150. It's a daylight temperature LED with no RGB or bicolor functionality. On its own, it produces clean white light. But to achieve the color contrast that I'm looking for, I don't plainly use it that way. Instead, I start by setting my Sony a7 IV's white balance to 2900K. That's a very cold setting, well below the color temperature of standard daylight or indoor lighting, and what it does is shift all white light in the scene towards a cool blue tone. But then I place a full CTO gel inside the softbox of the Godox VL150. CTO stands for Color Temperature Orange. It's a warming gel designed to shift light towards warmer tones. They often come in packs of 4 with various strengths, and you can pick up a budget set for around $10. I've cut a small hole in the center of the gel, which allows it to slide into the inner base of the softbox and be held securely in place using wooden pegs along the surrounding bars. So here's what's happening. The camera's white balance is cooling everything in the scene down towards blue, but the full CTO gel on the key light is offsetting those cool tones specifically on the subject. Because the key light is angled towards the face, it restores proper skin tones on the subject, while everything that the key light doesn't reach directly, the background, the walls, the surrounding environment, all stays cool. Warmth on the subject, but cool blue everywhere else. That's the foundation of the cinematic color contrast that you see in the final image. And by experimenting with the white balance setting that you choose in camera and the strength of the CTO gel that you use, you can fine tune exactly how intense those cool tones appear in the surrounding scene. It's great color contrast produced from one light one gel and a white balance setting. No expensive RGB lights required. When positioning the key light, I'm looking for the distance and angle that adequately lights the subject's face, enough for the gel to do its job while still maintaining a natural shadow on the far side of the face for contrast. Too close and the light wraps too far around and that shadow disappears. Too far back and the gel's warming effect gets overwhelmed by the cool white balance. To nail the exposure and make the most of the dynamic range available from my camera, I use a middle grade card and check for zebra lines on the camera display. I've set my zebra lines to appear at 41% on the display. That threshold represents middle grey in S-Log3 and helps ensure that I'm capturing as much detail as possible without clipping. I then either tweak the output strength of the Godox VR150, which I usually find myself setting somewhere between 60 and 80%, or the aperture of the lens until I see that those zebra lines appear. This takes a lot of the guesswork out of setting the exposure, especially when you're working alone. With the key light set, the next thing to address is the contrast on the shadow side of the face. When I first started refining my lighting, I tried adding negative fill using a floppy, a large black flag designed to deepen the shadow on the far side of the face from the key light. I even built my own DIY version and shared the process in a video on this same channel. But over time, I realized the room was already doing that job on its own. Because the living room is large and the walls are well away from the subject's face, the key light falls off naturally without bouncing back in any meaningful amount. Once the room's ambient light was controlled, the shadow was already there without any additional help. In fact, looking back at that footage now, the negative fill was actually a bit too strong. The detail on the shadow side of the face was being lost and getting crushed. So rather than adding negative fill in a larger control room, I now do the opposite. I use the bounce side of a budget 5-in-1 reflector angled in from the shadow side of the face to redirect a small amount of light from the key light back towards the subject. Not enough to brightly light that side, but just enough to lift the shadow and retain the detail rather than losing it to a black void. The shadow stays. It just becomes a shadow that you can actually see into. This next element is the one that contributes the most to what I would describe as the textured quality of the image. My second light is the Aputure Amaran 100D, which I position to the side of the scene. Like the Godox VR150, it's a daylight temperature LED with no RGB functionality. And importantly, unlike the key light, there's no gel on this one. Remember, the camera is set to 2900K, so this light without any warming gel reads as a cool blue on camera. That's intentional. It reinforces the cooler background tones while the key light holds the warm tones on the subject, adding to the overall color contrast in the scene. But the main purpose of this light is to introduce texture, and I do that by placing strips of cardboard cut from an old box in front of the light, acting as a rough gobo. The light passes through the gaps and creates vertical streaks across the background wall. The effect reads very much like light coming through partially open blinds from an outdoor window. It adds texture, depth, and visual interest to what would otherwise be a flat background. This approach actually came about because I used to do exactly that. I would place the light out on the balcony and shine it through the actual blinds. The effect was good, but the practicalities were not. Rain on wet days, the afternoon sun overheating the unit, and a very real concern about birds treating the equipment as a perch convinced me to find another way. The cardboard gives me a similar result from inside the room, but with much less worries. Though for professional client shoots I'd use a proper gobo light or perhaps a nicely 3D printed version of the same sort of shape, something that travels cleanly and looks the part, but for home use it works surprisingly well. And one more thing that this same light does, I angle it so that it also spills slightly onto the window blinds themselves, creating a subtle accent light across their edge. It's a small detail, but it adds another layer of depth to the background, one that you would probably notice if it were gone. And I run this Amaran side light at around 25% strength, bright enough to create the texture, but low enough that it doesn't compete with the subject for the viewer's attention. By this point, the subject is nicely lit and the background has texture, but the overall scene can still feel quite cold. The 2900K white balance has pushed much of the background towards blue, and while that's been working in our favor for color separation, the image needs some warmth in the background as well to feel balanced rather than just simply cold. This is where some budget practical and household lights come in. I use a standard household floor lamp with a warm 3000K bulb placed in the background. The flexible adjustable head lets me angle the light exactly where I want it, introducing warm tones into the scene without flooding the background with brightness. The goal is a splash of warmth, not another key light. Alongside some decorative elements, I scatter a few small practicals like a warm LED light bar hidden behind the furniture or a small desk lamp. Each one adds a small warm accent that counterbalances the cool in-camera white balance and makes the background feel alive and layered rather than just dark. Likewise with the floor lamp, the goal here are pockets of warmth, not flooding the background with brightness. And there you have it, that's the complete setup. What I want you to take away from this isn't a list of new products to buy, but rather a way of thinking about light that you can apply to whatever equipment you already have. It was building this way of thinking, video by video, that led to that transformative shift in the production quality of my own videos. So start by controlling the ambient light and building from zero. Then experiment with your camera's white balance in simple gels to create color contrast without needing expensive RGB lights. Build balanced depth through the careful positioning and angling of your lights and bounce, and finish with small warm practical accents to maintain color balance in the scene. As you can see, lighting goes a long way. Same apartment living room, same camera, same two main lights, but vastly different results. If your talking head footage had been feeling a little bit flat or generic, I truly hope that this has helped you. And more so, I hope that the techniques that you've picked up here today follow you into every room that you shoot in, whether that's at home or on a professional shoot. But as solo creators, we all know that getting a cinematic looking camera is only part of the process. Then comes the lengthy B-roll editing. And I built a tool specifically to help with that in DaVinci Resolve. It's called the B-roll Fade and Finish Pro system. With a single drag and drop, you can apply a fade in, rounded border, and drop shadow to your overlaid B-roll clips instantly. But beyond that, it comes with a completely redesigned crop method and an editable preset system that gives you a lot more control over how your B-roll looks and behaves in a fraction of the time that it would normally take. If you're editing your own overlaid B-roll heavy content in DaVinci Resolve, it could truly save you a meaningful amount of time on every project. And if you do pick it up, you'd also be directly supporting the channel, which helps me to continue making videos like this one for you. You can find the link in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you catch what's coming next. We're close to reaching 1,000 subscribers and I would love to have you along for that. Lastly, if you have any questions about any part of the setup, drop them in the comments below. I read every single one and will do my best to help you. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.